Hello friends, welcome to the Jazz Ranch. I've had a request to do more things with beginner jazz, and I've had a good response to my beginner jazz series. So I wanted to show you something about the technique of playing the major scale. And it's a very important thing to learn when you're a beginner, and to learn the correct fingering, and then some exercises using the major scales that will help to develop your technique. So that's what I'm going to be dealing with this evening. And I have a quote for you from the great saxophonist John Coltrane. He said, "My music is the spiritual expression of what I am, my faith, my knowledge, my being." When you begin to see the possibilities of music, you desire to do something really good for people, to help humanity free itself from its hang-ups. I want to speak to their souls. So I really get this and appreciate that comment, that quote from John Coltrane. I think it's important to find your purpose in life. I started out as a businessman. I switched to music because I felt that was something that was more important for me to do. So now here we go with the major scale. Learning your major scales proficiently and playing them well will be a great warm-up exercise for you in your practice routine. So it's really important. Plus you're going to use the major scales and their modes in improvisation. I'm going to show you that later on, but you need to learn your major scales first, and then eventually your major modes, which are just major scales, but starting on, instead of starting on the tonic, you're starting on a different note. And for each one of those 7 notes, you're going to have either a minor 7th chord or a dominant 7th chord or a half diminished chord or a major chord. So it's very important to learn all your major scales first. This is the cover of my book, Jazz Piano Methods and Songbook for Professional Playing. It's only available through me and my website. I have a download version and a hard copy, and it's designed to fit into a 3-ring binder, so it's very practical. Let's look inside for a second. Looking inside my book, you can see it's in a 3-ring binder. These pages come out if you want to photocopy them. It lies flat on the music stand. I start out with the chromatic scale, its uses in various tunes, and then the major scale is here in its theory. Then we go over here and you see all the keys and their key signatures, and then the cycle of fifths. Moving in flat keys this way, counterclockwise, in sharp keys clockwise, and then you have all your scales, major scales and relative minor scales. Starting out, I'm going to be showing you the major scale, the major diatonic scale, and how the fingering works. And I'm going to show it to you according to a formula and a pattern. Now, when I learned scales years ago when I was young, they were taught to me by a teacher that just had it written out on a page, and I learned it and I played the fingerings correctly and so on. I didn't really think about the theory or any kind of pattern or any kind of deeper thought about it. I just learned them. But then later, years later, I kind of figured out a certain thing that's very interesting about the scales and how to finger them correctly. Now, you're not going to play a scale like that with, you know, 1 or even 2 or like that. You're going to play it according to correct fingering, which is a pattern of 3 notes and then 4 notes. So you have to find that pattern on the scale as you see it visually here on the keyboard. Now, the other thing to notice about the scale, or it's important to note, is the formula of a scale. A major scale is always 2 whole steps, a half step, then 3 whole steps, and then a half step. So it's 2 whole, half, 3 whole, half. That works for any note you start on. So you know that a whole step is 2 half steps. So we go adjacent notes for half. Like this is a half, and this is a half, 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 half. So to get to a whole, we have to go there. Whole step, half, 2 whole steps, half. Now here there's no black note, so that's a half step. Here, whole step, whole step, whole step. There's no black note there, so half step. So again, whole step, half, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. So 2 and then a half, 3 and then a half. Now if you can, let's take a difficult scale like D flat. There's a whole step there. There's the second whole step. Here's the half now. Here's the whole. Here's the whole. And here's the whole. And here's the half. You see? So 2 wholes, the half, then 3 wholes and the half. So it works perfectly every time. Now the pattern. you can just lay them right out there on the, this is what I do. I lay them out on each scale. There's the pattern for C, there's the 3, there's the 4. So it goes like this, 1, 2, 3, then the thumb crosses under. Can't go over, got to go under, so it crosses under. And what you do is shift. I like to shift. Rather than going and twisting the hand, I like to go and shift. That's more, it's faster. I can go, see, but it's 1, 2, 3, then shift to the, get the thumb on there, on the F, and then you have 4, there you go. Now if you're going to repeat it on another octave, then you have to go the thumb under, the 4. You see, that's a little trickier. But if you shift quickly, then you get it. See, I'm shifting. I'm not, you know, creating angles there. I'm like going straight like this, keeping it straight along the keyboard. I'm going to show you now how to play 3 octaves and with accents on triplets, but that's later on. I want you to get this scale and get the fingering to start out. So it goes like this, 1, 2, 3, under, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you're going to end it in one octave, then you can put the 5, the pinky there, and then just reverse it. Right down, and then it cross over. See, on the reverse, you have to cross over. So 1, 2, 3, under, thumb over with the 3rd finger. You're just reversing it. It's like a mirror image. So what I learned later on was that every scale, every major scale in any key, is a pattern of 3 and 4 or 4 and 3. And so what I'm going to explain it to you here is, now I'm going to show you, demonstrate, is that if you go on the circle of fifths clockwise, in other words in fifths rather than fourths, in other words you go from C to G to D to A, you know, C, G, D, A, E, B, and so on. You go in the relationship of you're adding sharps, that you're going to be using the 1, 2, 3, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern with the thumb starting on the root. So there's going to be 6 of them. There's going to be C like this. So that's, you can lay them down like that. The next one sharp would be G. So that would be these 3 and these 4. You see? So you have to be able to lay down the pattern on the scale of the 3 and the 4. That's the essence of it. So it goes like this. Now you got to put that sharp in there, you see, but that doesn't matter. You've got it on the 4th finger. Now if you want to go to the next octave, then you have to cross under the 4, as in C. You have to just, see, so in every case I'm shifting like that, and then shifting, you see. So it's a very quick move, like that. You have to practice that move, you see. So now for every one of these scales you have to figure out that 3 and 4 pattern. So now the next scale would be D, so it would be this pattern. Now we're talking about like C, no sharps or flats. G, 1 sharp, so we have that G. Now D, we have 2 sharps, so we've added that. We've added the C sharp, see, so we still have the F sharp in there. Now we add the, we're not going to go into that right now, but we're going to go into the pattern. So there's the 3 notes, and there's the 4. You see, if it was 4, you couldn't cross comfortably, you see, so it always has to be comfortable, so you can play it quickly. If you can't play it quickly, then it's the wrong fingering, you see. So now, there you go, 3, 1, 2, 3, then cross under to the G. And if you want to continue, then you got to cross there. See, I do a quick move like that. You have to practice that quick move like this. Then, okay, the next scale would be A, right? So now we're going to have 3 sharps. So now A will start down here. So the 3 sharps are going to be this one, this one, this one. So now we're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You see, so now there's the pattern. If you can lay it down on the keyboard, then you're going to know it, you see. You have to know it just beyond a bunch of notes. You have to know it as a pattern. You have to know what the sharps and what the sharps are, and you have to know what the pattern is. So there's 3 and there's 4. If we made it 4, then it wouldn't work. You'd see you'd have to cross there, and then you'd end up, you know. So we're gonna do it the most smooth way, like that. The quickest way. Next scale, up a 5th would be E. 4 sharps. These are the sharps. So same thing. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Next scale after E would be B. Same thing. B has 5 sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these black notes are sharp. So now we have 1, 2, 3. Now the pattern of 4. This is an easy scale to play, actually. See, because our hands, the hand falls comfortably on that scale. You would think a 5 sharp scale would be difficult, but it isn't. Now, those are the first 6. So you had C, then you had G with 1 sharp, then you had D with 2 sharps, then you had A with 3 sharps, then you had E with 4 sharps, then you had B with 5 sharps. Now when we go to 6 sharps, it's going to change. Now 6 sharps is F sharp, and it's the same as G flat, so you can look at it either way. But when we get to that point, now we're going to be starting with 4 and then 3. So this is fascinating because we think about it. The first 6 scales out of 12, we had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to be changing to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. We're going to be reversing that formula, but we're not going to be starting with the thumb on the root. We're going to be starting with the thumb on the 7th step, and the 2nd finger on the root. So, but it's still important thing to realize is that pattern of 3 and 4 is still happening, but it's reversed. It's 4 and then 3. So we have this as the first 4. Now you say, what's the F doing in there? Well, that's just showing you where the pattern is. You have to figure out the pattern. It doesn't have to start on the root. You know, in other words, the pattern is there and then it's there. That's the scale. You see, so the thumb is going on the 7th step of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then crossing for the 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's your 4 pattern, there's your 3 pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's try it down here. 1, 2, 3. Let's see, we're going to start on G flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And so. Okay, the next scale is D flat because we're going up a 5th. Now D flat actually goes back to the 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern, but it's here. It's off center. In other words, it doesn't start with the thumb on the root, but it starts with the 2nd finger on the root, and the thumb is on the 7th. So like you see if you figure out each pattern in terms of how it fits the scale of the 3 and the 4, then you get this, you know, like you get it in a deeper way than you would by just reading fingering on a page. So there you see, there's the 3 pattern for the scale. This is the scale. It has, right, 5 flats. All the black notes are flatted. So like we have to start here, because if we started with 3, if we started with 3 or even 4, we couldn't cross comfortably. We have to create the quickest way to get through the scale with speed is the best pattern. So the pattern is this, and the 4 is there. So this is the 3, this is the 4. So now we have to go like this, starting on the 2, and then it crosses over on the 1, and then it crosses over there with the thumb on the 7th, you see? So we start on the 2. See, we don't always start on the thumb. We can start on the 2, or we can start on the 3, or even the 4 for that matter. But see how that nicely that moves? Just reversing it. As you practice these, but if you learn them in this way that I'm teaching them in terms of the pattern, then you'll understand them more in depth than just a bunch of notes and how to finger them. Okay, the next one is an oddball, and we always have these oddballs in music. The next one, A flat, which is 4 flats. Actually, it starts with the 4 being starting on the 6th step of the scale. So we're starting on the 3rd finger. Now, so like, see, here's the pattern. There and there. So you have to find that pattern. You know, the 4 and 3. There's the 4, there's the 3. You can't, there's no other possibility than that. You all, the 4 and the 3 or the 3 and the 4 work perfectly on every scale, you know, for the fingering. But this one starts here on actually the 6th step of the scale. So it goes 6, 7, 1, right? 2, and then crosses over on the 3, and then the 4, 5, and then crosses over to the 6. So you'd be starting on the 3rd finger, technically. Now some people they don't like to start on the 3rd finger, so you could start on the 2nd finger, like this. And that's usually what happens. You start on the most comfortable finger. Even though this is the 3 and the 4 pattern is perfect in every way, 4 and 3, 4 and 3. We're going to start on the 2nd finger because it's easier. That's easier to do than this, because we're not crossing over the 4th finger. We're crossing over the 3rd finger, you see, but it's still the 4 and the 3. That is important that you understand that it's the 4 and the 3. If you get that, then you're going to understand the depth of how perfect this system works. Now, next step is up a 5th key of E flat. So same thing. I mean, we can't start on the thumb, because you see, even if you went 3, you wouldn't be able to cross there. If you went 4, you wouldn't be able to cross. It would be uncomfortable. So we have to create the most comfortable position. So what it actually does is the 3 go there, starting on the 6, and the 4 go here. See, so you see how that's comfortable in in the hand position. So we have to actually start on the 3rd finger. Now you could do it this way, or you could put the 2nd finger there. It doesn't matter, but it's the 3rd, and then the 4 start there, and then the 3 start here. You see, so you can start it on 3. See, so it reverses itself on the descent. But most important thing on this video is to get the ascending pattern. It may be too much to get the descending, but if you get the ascending perfect, and you may say, well, wow, why is this useful? Because this is going to build your technique. It's going to build your understanding of scales and of how to improvise and how to memorize things. It's all related. All these things come into focus when you're learning to play music on the piano. You have to have keyboard ability. You have to have knowledge of your keyboard. And this is extending it by showing you the theory of this and the patterns of it. So there's our pattern of 3, there's our pattern of 4 for E flat. So we go like this. You see? Okay, now we're down to the last 2 scales, B flat and F. And they are interesting ones, because for B flat we have to find the pattern. So we can't do that, so we have to, we can't do that, so we have to go, can we do this? No, we have to do this. We have to go down, you see, we have to go down to the 5th and start the 4 pattern there, and then go there, you see. So after you get past the sharp keys, then it gets interesting, because you have to figure out a different formula for the 4 and the 3, but it's always going to be the 4 and the 3, which is important to understand, because then you're really knowing it in depth, you see. So there, and you're going to be playing the scales better. And why play the scales? It'll build your technique, it'll build your improvisational skills and your memorization skills and everything else you need to know about piano if you learn your scales. So there's the 4 pattern, and there's the 3 pattern. Yeah, we're doing B flat. So we're doing this. So now's your pattern of 4, there's your pattern of 3. You see? Pattern of 4, pattern of 3. Let me get it there. So we're going to start there. Now you may say, well, I don't want to start on the 4th finger. Well, you're right. You don't want to start and then have to cross there. So let's just start on the 2. But you know that the 3 is following it, you see? So you're going to do 2, 1, 2, 3. And then the 4 pattern. You see, so you're starting on the 2, even though the 4 pattern is there, and that would be the 4th finger to start. You don't want to start with the 4th because you got to cross too much, so just start with the 2. There's your 3 pattern, there's your 4 patterns, you see? Now the last one is F. Now F is kind of easy because it just does a straight 4 pattern starting on the thumb. So this is the first one in the, I guess in the flat category of keys in which you're starting on the thumb. So it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3. So you see, so that's easy. So the difficult ones become the ones that are in the flat pattern, where you don't start on the thumb and you start on a different finger, and the pattern is a combination of either 4 or 3. So those are, you know, like between G flat, D flat, A flat, E flat. Those and A and B flat are the tricky ones. Those 5, and then F is easy because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. But it's kind of fascinating the way all the sharp keys start with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, that pattern, and the flat keys are kind of a mixture of combinations, but often do the 1, 2, 3, 4 first, and perfectly on the F scale, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So these certain scales are easier to play because of that pattern being just starting with the thumb. So there you have it. Now these are written out for you, and you're going to see them as we go along here, and I hope this is a good start. This is just part 1 of learning to play your scales in your right hand. We have to switch now to left hand. We have to put both hands together. This is quite a task to accomplish. So I want to wrap up by showing you how to practice your major scales in 3 octaves using triplets. Now if you're going to play it in 4 octaves, you're going to use quads, but that's for the next lesson. This is just going to be 3 octaves from here to here, and one thing we want to review is the fact that we're shifting. We're not rotating like that. We're shifting position like this. And we're going for legato. So you practice it very slowly at first. Now the triplets would be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4 and a 1. See how it comes out even if you play it in 3 octaves. If you do 4 octaves, you have to do it in 4s, or grouping of quads. So this is like slowly 1, 2, 3. Accent each triplet, first note of each triplet. What that does is it gives emphasis on different fingers. So you develop the skills of accenting on different fingers. So it's trickier than just playing it straight, and it's more helpful for developing your technique. Just one last thing about learning your scales is the importance of knowing the scale and how to play it, and then relating it to improvisation or interval playing. Like I can play the scale like that, just straight up, or I can do it like this. Or I can do like, or you know. See, all these things have to do with jazz playing. You could go like a. All this, you know, in every key is important stuff, like or you know, like you can invent hundreds of these, like, you know. You know, so knowing your scales in every key, you know, like what. Knowing your scales, you're enabling yourself to learn patterns. that relate to jazz improvisation and just musical knowledge and knowledge of the keyboard. You know, whatever the key be. Here's D flat. You can put chords in. When I improvise, I'm thinking of that scale. I know the scale, I know the pattern of that scale. That is absolutely so important to know how to play and how to improvise. Like, we are using scales constantly, doesn't matter what key. That's the scale, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter whether you're playing major or minor. It's more than your ear. It's your ear and your knowledge of the scale and the pattern of it. Wrapping up from the Jazz Ranch, that's part one of the major scales. In other words, learning them in your right hand in 3 octaves, and then eventually you'll learn them in 4 octaves. And the next part will be showing you the left hand and the fingering and developing the technique of using both hands. Now that's really fun and challenging. So write to me if you want this series continued. And until next time, I'll say thanks for joining me, and in the words of my great friend Hermie Dressel, God rest his merry soul, swing loose. We'll see you next time around. Bye-bye.